structures are permitted on properties uh, via the regulations in R4, R4A, and R5. There are requirements with regard to mixed use developments and requirements related to industrial districts. All those things are iterated in the zoning ordinance, and it is what the staff of the city uses to review and approve applications. It's important also to remember that the Office of Zoning and Development is the big Z, and the Office of Buildings is the little z. The big Z is the office that is responsible for all of the regulations, all of the interpretations in the city. And then when an application is submitted that doesn't happen to be in a quality of life district, but is in a regular conventional district, with regard to permitting and the streams in which that works, is that application goes straight to permitting. And then there are zoning checks with regard to the development controls for a property that's already entitled, and then it follows through the permitting process. If you happen to be in a district where a big Z is required, meaning you have to go through a special administrative permit process, or there's a requirement for a subdivision of land or consolidation of land, all those happen prior to the permitting process, prior to the building permitting process, where there is another small Z zoning check to ensure that your property is within zoning guidelines. Zoning regulations also regulate buildings size, building placement. It regulates building height. And all of those are supposed to promote orderly patterns and support the public good. It is why that many single family residential districts only permit buildings up to 35 feet in height, or if it's an accessory structure, it permits a building up to 20 feet in height. There are regulations about how we measure the height of the building. There are regulations about how we measure, how we define the sidewalk that is required per the district. There's regulations about how big the structure is, either via the Louis table or via iterations of the FAR in the district itself. All that is part of the regulatory framework of the zoning ordinance of the city, and any other zoning ordinance in the country, as a matter of fact. Then zoning carries out the comprehensive plan. So it must be consistent with the vision for growth established in the city's comprehensive development plan, which is why you will find our land use compatibility table, and you will find a list of our zoning districts and a list of the district's compatibility with land use. If someone comes in and submits an application and they're seeking to go from R1 to MR5, MR5 requires high density residential, and they're in a single family residential district. If the MPU policies say they want to maintain single family residential in this area, then staff's recommendation is going to be consistent with the zoning ordinance and the city's comprehensive development plan. Now, if you're in an area where it looks transitional and the neighborhood and the MPU have said they're seeking to do transition, then staff's recommendation may be something different, because it says they want to have transition in that area, which takes me back to my point. It needs to be very, very clear about the policy of your areas when we're talking about the CDP, because then we will create a zoning ordinance that allows all of these things to take place with regard to regulations. And then once applications start coming through, we're making recommendations from the staff level based upon what is written in adopted policy. This is what a copy of our land use compatibility table looks like. You will see all the land use designations that we currently operate under on the left-hand side, and all the zoning classifications across the top. Each of the shaded areas indicates the compatible zoning district and land uses. In any areas where you see that it's white area, it is not compatible with a land use designation. So let's talk about process. The Zoning Review Board hears all applications for special use permit, for rezoning, and for text amendments. Text amendments do not require that there be an advertisement card sent out, because they're just an amendment to the code, but they do require that there be a public hearing on the text amendment. In addition to that, in accordance to our code, any text amendment that is an amendment to the regular citywide code, then all 25 MPUs must provide an opinion. So how does this happen? An application is submitted to the Office of Zoning and Development and taken in by a member of the intake team. The intake team processes the application, gets the payment, and then they send it to a member of my staff who either sends it to myself as the secretary to the zoning review board, or sends it to Ms. Blatch as the secretary of the BZA, depending on the type of application. Once the application is received and intake is completed, then an NPU receives a copy of the application, as well as it is assigned to a planner in the Office of Zoning and Development to then start generating a staff report. Once there is a site visit conducted by the planner, and then a staff report is generated and a recommendation is provided for the NPU, then the application is advertised for the zoning review board. City Council has delegated the power of public hearings to the zoning review board, which is why all the public hearings are held before the zoning review board. And then there are no other public hearings held related to a zoning item, and no other discussion, because the public hearing has taken place at the ZRB, which is why it's very important that if you have an application in your neighborhood, or you find yourself in an area where you want to opine on an application, that you do attend the public hearing for ZRB. At the public hearing, the applicant is called to the podium. They have 10 minutes to speak in favor of their application. They can reserve any of their time for rebuttal, and many of them do, depending on the type of the application. Once they're complete, then the opposition has 10 minutes to speak, and they do not have the opportunity for rebuttal. Once that is complete, then the public hearing is closed, and then the members of the zoning review board go into what is called executive deliberations. And that happens in the chamber in front of everyone. They talk about the application, they ask questions of the applicant, they ask questions of people who are in favor, those who are in opposition, and then they make a non-binding recommendation. The recommendations from zoning review board, from staff, and the NPU are then sent up to the committee, the zoning committee of city council, and the zoning committee of city council makes a recommendation. And then finally, all that information is presented to city council. And then the 15 members of city council either approve or deny a request for rezoning, special use permit, or text amendment. So with a text amendment, there could be amendments made on the floor of council. If there are amendments to a text amendment made on the floor of council, then it has to go back through the process for everyone who is involved to rehear the text amendment. Once that happens, once all of this concludes, then there is the mayor either signs the legislation into law, or he or she allows it to pass into law after 8 days. Now, appeals. Appeals of a decision of city council are appealed to the Fulton County Superior Court, and it must be done within 30 days of the decision. If you got to 31 days, there can be no more appeal, and therefore whatever the action that was taken by city council, if you don't agree with it, you just have to live with it. Now, with regard to Board of Zoning Adjustment, the Board of Zoning Adjustment pretty much operates the same way, except they don't hear applications for rezoning and special use permit and text amendments. They hear any application for relief from code requirements, which means they hear applications for special exceptions, which are related to fences and parking, and they hear applications for variances, which are related to relief from building heights, building setbacks, additions in heights, transitional yard requirements. All those things are relief from the code requirements, and that is what BZA hears. In addition to that, if there is an appeal of a decision that I make, a member of my staff makes, a member of the Office of Buildings makes, a member of any administrative officer makes, that appeal is also presented before the BZA. So the application submittal, the NPU review, the staff planner review, and the BZA hearing pretty much operate like the zoning review board. At the BZA, there's also a public hearing held. There is 10 minutes for those who speak in favor, 10 minutes for those who speak in opposition, and then the public hearing closes. However, once that happens and BZA goes into executive deliberations, because they are a quasi-judicial board, that whatever their decision is, whether it's an approval or denial, it is made by BZA. And then if someone does not agree with the decision of the BZA, then their decision, the decision by the BZA, is appealed to Fulton County Superior Court, and the same rules apply. Should you not be able to make your appeal within 30 days, then you have to live with the decision, or have lived the decision, and it's final. So what does the NPU get with regard to applications? A couple of years ago, after teaching one of these classes, I heard someone say that they were not receiving information, they weren't aware, didn't know processes. And so I immediately went back to my office and made sure that all of our applications that are submitted to our office, regardless of whether or not it is required by code, that the NPU has the opportunity to receive that information. But there are some applications that just do not get any type of NPU approval or recommendation, and they're only review and comment. Those are things related to the special administrative permits or variations that are approved via a special administrative permit, a subdivision application, a lot consolidation application, a replat, or a zero lot line. All of those are administrative reviews, meaning staff on the land development team review those applications, review them in accordance with the zoning regulations in the code, and should they be found to be consistent with the code, and those applications are then approved. My office also is responsible for brownfields, and the Brownfield Loan Fund Program issues loans to private property owners and subgrants to nonprofit organizations. We have given money, or the city has given money through the loan program to Trees Atlanta, to FCS, and to Atlanta Beltline for construction of portions of the Beltline. Our program is still very, very robust. We're now working on a grant of dollars for the Chattahoochee Brick site, as well as considering some other locations for other brownfield remediation funds. This is important because it is a part of the development process. There are places in the city where lands are contaminated or have some type of environmental issue and cannot move forward without dollars to clean that up. And so the brownfield money kind of fills that gap when development is occurring. We have given or are considering some sub-grant dollars for some affordable housing projects in the city. And so we're very happy to continue to apply for the program and be awarded dollars from the federal government. So let's talk about some of the development controls. So development controls related to FAR can be different. In this image that I'm showing here on the screen, the FAR is exactly the same for each of the 3 development sites, but you can see that the architect in this particular situation has decided to use it differently. One has a tower, one has a little platform with a tower, and the other one is buildings at the same height. While we don't have many regulations that control what the building looks like in the sense of how you set the buildings on the site, we do regulate every building site by the FAR, and it can look very different in many areas and many iterations. Now let's talk about conditions, which conditions are something that many properties have, and usually it is a negotiation point when there are projects that are of significance to a community. They are designed to mitigate any potential or realistic impacts of a proposed project. Those can run the gamut from building materials to there have been conditions that we adopted related to the time that construction trucks are allowed in the area. We have conditions related to ingress and egress. We have conditions related to FAR, making it lower than what the actual district allows. And all of those are designed to mitigate any unforeseen impacts of the development on the neighboring community. However, I would caution all communities to remember that when conditions are being considered, that you consider what the city can legally enforce. We have lots of conditions in many of our projects where we have been required to include the conditions, but they are unenforceable. And because they are unenforceable, we kind of get the darts from communities when we say we can't enforce those rules. So conditions are fine, but just remember that once you add the condition, that it should be a condition that can be enforced by the city under its regulations and its allowances. Make sure that they have a rational connection to the impacts of the project. So don't say things like, I want to have I want you to pay a check to my community because you're building this building. That's not something that we can include. Um, it must be enforceable by administrative staff. It must be roughly proportional to the impact of the proposed project. So if you're considering a fence and you say there has to be a fence around the perimeter, there should be a reason why there should be a fence around the perimeter, such as you want to make sure that there isn't any unforeseen circumstances from the proposed project to neighboring properties. So just make sure they're all necessary and associated with the project. Transitional height in yards has been a very big discussion here on a number of projects, and understanding how transitional height and transitional yards operate. Transitional yards are designed. Transitional yards are iterated as a 20-foot buffer between neighboring properties. You usually see them next to protected districts. In the city, protected districts are R1 through R5. Sometimes you'll see MR1 as a protected district, or you'll see RG1 as a protected district, but usually they are between R1 and R5 in PDH. And then unprotected districts will be everything else. So you will find what is called a transitional yard requirement. And transitional yard requirement is iterated as 20 feet. It can be requested to be reduced via a variance, but there is supposed to be a standard that the development site should have met in order to request and get approved a transitional yard. Transitional height requirements are to make sure that there's the sunlight for protected properties or in protected district continues to receive sunlight and air and all the things that they're enjoying now without a tall building being next to it, which is why it goes up 45, it goes up 35 feet, and then it give an angle of 45 degrees so that the property next to it, which is in another, this is a protected district, continues to enjoy all the things they've been enjoying before. Let's talk a little bit about design standards. Design standards usually are up to about the third floor, which is usually the what people feel when they're walking down a street. Really good examples of design standards is Midtown. Midtown is a great example of design standards where you feel as though you're walking not in an unsecure area, but an area that's really secure. It's lit up. You see people, you see activity. That's the kind of design standards that we're looking for mostly in major urban areas and in SPI districts. With regard to single family homes, we adopted design standards with regard to porches and stoops in 2019. We also adopted regulations with regard to sidewalks because we want to enforce sidewalks here in the city and create other ways for people to get around and not feel unsafe, as well as creating the sidewalk network throughout the city will provide pedestrians with a way to get from their homes to larger transit areas or even to their jobs. You never know. Pedestrian entrances at the sidewalk level shall be visible from the street. That's also to protect the pedestrian. And then properties should be addressed so that people can see the primary building entrance and be able to identify it immediately and not feel lost in the sea of areas. Okay, so I will stop there. And I will open the floor up to questions.
Thank you, Kieta. This is a good time to remind everyone, please raise your hand. If you have any questions, you can do that by clicking on the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and then raise hand. And please ensure that your questions are relevant to course content. Are there any questions at this time? No questions? Oh, there's one. William, good to see you again.
Nice to see you as well. Hate to be the only one with a question. I better make it good, huh? It's a potluck. Okay. So we just recently in Thomasville had a application for a rezoning of a single family lot to divide it into two homes. Which they're wanting to change it from R4 to R4A. Our concern and my question is, if we're okay with the reduction of the frontage, and that R4A has as compared to R4, but we want to limit the size. So we wanted to allow that part of it. We want to limit the buildable area so it doesn't. I understand the 45-degree. I've seen a house done like that to allow the sunlight. We want to make sure that the 1,200 square foot house isn't built next to a 2,400 square foot plate. Are we able to control that through what measures would we be able to do that? We have to not deny the zoning? Can we add conditions to it, or that's my general question.
Okay, let me answer your question with a can answer. Let me answer your question with the question so I can make sure I understand your question. Okay, so the property is zoned R4 and it's one lot.
Correct.
The applicant has requested to rezone to R4A and if it is adopted, they plan to subdivide.
Correct.
Okay. The subdivision will create two R4A lots, which have a 50-foot lot frontage and a 0.5
5.5, I think.
55 FAR. And you want to reduce the FAR?
Correct.
And you want to reduce the FAR because
the lots are only 10,000 square feet, so the FAR would be roughly 5,500 square feet.
and the developer has said he's building a 5,500 square foot house.
Well, they haven't showed any design plans for what they're going to do to the lots. They're right now just wanting to make them R4 to R4A and make them they're about 58, 60 feet a piece wide, which is fine. We're trying to control the architectural integrity of the neighborhood. Obviously you can't build new construction just like old construction looks. We just don't want something that's overpoweringly different and sticks out like a sore thumb. So I just wanted to get some advice on that.
You can. There have been applications like this in Northwest Atlanta where the homes are a little bit smaller, where they have a developer has asked for a subdivision and they have been conditioned on the lot size, or not lot size, on the FAR. If I remember the application correctly, the property was rezoned to R4A. I think, but they were required to follow, or there were conditions to follow the R4 development controls, or
Okay.
vice versa. So that is possible.
Would that be something that would go not through the ZRB, but through the BZA?
It is a rezoning, so that goes to the zoning review board.
Okay, so if I follow correctly, it was okay for R4A, but they had to follow the building and design codes of R4.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Courtney?
Hello.
Hello.
A unique question to neighborhoods that are increasing in density or already very dense. Not surprising, I'm asking, since I'm in Midtown. But do we anticipate the city code adopting any sort of policies on light pollution in the future? My understanding is that we don't have any right now. So is that going to be part of the zoning rewrite potentially?
No, ma'am. There has been no discussion about light pollution. We did not introduce it in either the Idea Labs or in the focus workshops. So it would be, we would not probably introduce it as a part of the draft. If light pollution is of major concern, you do need to reach out to Nate Hosel and ask him about health related or what other policy buckets will be considered in the CDP, and that is certainly something that he could probably investigate for one of those elements of the CDP.
Is there any reference in code anywhere to shading or shielding outside of parking decks?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr.
Petro.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. And I apologize if you already went over this, but my partner and I own a triplex on Tanya Creek Park, which is also on the Beltline. And we wanted to convert our garage into an ADU unit. So we would actually add a fourth unit to our triplex.
What's the zoning on your property?
It's R5.
The R5 zoning, so that means that your triplex is already non-conforming.
Right,
That's
right.
one. And then two, the R5 regulations, when they were amended in 2017,
Okay.
did allow the addition of an ADU, but there cannot be more than 2 units on a property. So if you have a
Okay.
duplex, you would be required to subdivide it via a 0 lot line, and that is the only way you could add an ADU. So
So
I'm sorry,
subdivide it as a 0
lot line.
to actually create like a separate lot where the garage
Yes,
is.
it does.
Oh.
It creates a separate lot
Oh,
for real
cool.
estate purposes.
That's good advice. All right, thanks.
Mhm.
All right,
Angela?
Angela and Sabir, and a reminder to everyone, please make sure your questions are relevant to course content. Angela?
Okay, I have two parts to this question. In GIS, does zoning, when I look up the address, the zoning that's for that address, is it particularly for that address? So say for instance, if it's, I'm just gonna say an address, 1453 DeSoto Avenue, and it is maybe a MRC, something like that. Is it just particularly for that specific address it's listed for? Okay,
is
and
correct.
how would I know what the structure on the property's current use is? So if it's a MRC or NC, I guess, how would I know what that specific structure's current use is?
You would not know that. We
I
don't,
wouldn't.
the city does not maintain any use records other than there's some historical records in Acela. And for those of you who don't know what Acela is is our permitting and planning software that we do all of our reviews in and maintain all of our records in. We don't keep use information in there. There was some of that old Kiva information was rolled over, but for the most part, if you're seeking to know what the use is, it's either the applicant tells you the use or one of the inspectors has done some type of investigation or been inside and they can tell you what the use is.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Or certificates of occupancy are supposed to tell that,
Yes.
but depending on the age of the building, we may not be able to locate the CO.
Now, so I have another question. If we can't locate the CO, how do we determine what the use of that building is? If it has several different, I guess, if it has several different uses that can be there, how do I determine now, other than if zoning does, or if an applicant brings that in and we don't find a CO for it, how do we actually?
We
How do we
usually, if they're sent to the Office of Zoning and Development, we tell them to go through the ZVL non-conforming process.
Okay.
And the ZVL non-conforming process is to establish what the building was or is being used for. And once that determination is made by an inspector, that's what we go by.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Dobson?
Hi there. This is might be a similar question to the light pollution question. Is there anything that's required in zoning code regarding environmental pollution or contamination and the prevention of that?
That
And,
is,
I'm sorry, and would that be, I had asked the same question in the CDP call, and there seemed to be some response of including that, or at least talking about that in the CDP. But I just
Yeah.
wanted to.
that would be a policy, that's a policy issue and a policy, what's the word I'm looking for? Element. There are no regulations related to environmental, there are no environmental regulations in the zoning rewrite. All the environmental codes are either under watershed development because they deal with the water and of the city, those kinds of things, floodplains, sanitary sewer, drinking water, all those things, all those environmental aspects like that are under the purview of the watershed department and not under city planning. City planning is only the regulation of private property, and the environmental or development codes regulate everything else, either via a federal regulation or a state regulation.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ms. Murray?
Hi, thanks for taking my question. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Kieta, to you and your office for everything you're doing to help us in East Atlanta, particularly with our NC zoning that we're working on. I've attended the zoning 2.0 meetings, and maybe you said this earlier and I missed it, but I think where we left off in the last meeting where the public was allowed to attend for input, that there was going to maybe be an update towards the end of last year. Could you just provide a little bit of information on where we're at as far as the status of this?
Ms. Murray, all questions in this class have to be relevant to course content. This class is
Oh,
not zoning 2.0.
I'm sorry. I was
That's
just
okay.
curious of the status because I didn't know.
I know, because I remember when you asked that question at MPUW and I told you to reach out to the office. So this class is not the class for that question. I apologize, but I can connect you to Director Holmes if you'd like. Ms.
Call me in the morning.
Weiswasser?
Yeah, call me in the morning.
Yeah, so I had a question about ADUs. Most of the ordinances and legislation that I see is about detached ADUs, but when it comes to like a basement ADU or attached ADUs, are we just following the same ordinances that are listed for a detached, obviously excluding height?
So there has been this phrase of an attached ADU kind of tossed around here in the city. An attached structure is covered, or an attached ADU is effectively a two-family structure, not a duplex, but a two-family structure. A two-family structure allows a unit to be smaller than one of the other units, and it requires that both of those units face the public right of way. It does not address any type of secondary unit or under, like in a basement or not facing. Those regulations don't exist. But if you wanted to build a two-family structure today in an R5 district, you could do that because two families are permitted in R5.
So how would that apply for like a basement ADU, or basement, rental for somebody?
So if the city even decided to write legislation, it would not be called an ADU, because ADU by definition is in a detached structure. It would have to be called something else. A two-family structure is allowed today in the R5 zoning district regulations. There has not been any consideration or nothing in the code right now that would allow a basement unit in a single family structure to be developed. If there is, now there are lots of people who have basement structures and they independent and all that kind of thing because they are non-conforming, but there are no code provisions today in the code that would allow that. If that is something that is being considered or wants to be considered, one, it needs to be talked about in the CDP conversation that's coming up in February, and then subsequently in the zoning conversation that comes up after that.
Okay, thank you.
And I think somebody put something in the chat about what an ADU is. So when tiny houses started kind of ruminating in the country about 4 or 5 years ago, the city's response to that was the creation of an accessory dwelling unit. It is permitted in the following zoning districts: R4, R4A, and R5. And it is a detached structure that cannot exceed 750 square feet. Those are allowed today. There are some special public interest districts, I think maybe SPI 19, which is Vine City, and maybe SPI 3 or 4 that allow accessory dwelling units as well. An accessory dwelling unit cannot be constructed until after a primary structure is constructed, because it is accessory to the primary, which is why, to Ms. Weiswasser's question, those can be done today in certain iterations. Two-family structures can be done today in certain iterations, but her specific, the one portion that she talked about with regard to a basement unit or a unit that's interior to an existing home, those regulations do not exist today. So if she and other persons are seeking to do that, the conversation needs to be had with regard to our CDP and our rewrite, because those two are married together, and that's how the regulations exist. Miss Selyer?
Hi, good afternoon or good evening. I was trying to look in the existing coding information that you have online, and I couldn't find anything that describes what the MRMU or the R5C is allowed to have with regard to those zones. And then the other question I have is with regard to the quality of life districts. And is there any information on where those are currently located?
So let's start the last question. Quality of life districts are the following: MR, which is multifamily residential; MRC, which is mixed residential commercial;
Okay.
LW, which is live work; SPI, which is special public interest district, and that includes all 18 of them.
Okay.
Okay, those are all quality of life districts. They
Correct.
all require, oh, I'm sorry, one last one, NC, which is neighborhood commercial, and IMIX. All are quality of life districts. They're quality of life because they require certain building to street relationship controls, as well as lots of pedestrian oriented controls or regulations associated with the pedestrian experience. Those are all quality of life districts. Then your other question was MRMU.
Mhm.
MRMU was adopted in 2019 under Quick Fixes Phase 2. If you have been around the city or are familiar with Ansley Park or Virginia Highlands, there were old mansions that existed that were then broken up into separate apartment buildings. And that kind of building type really effectively went away. The MRMU district tried to bring that back, allow those buildings to be constructed new, which will allow a building to look like a single family home. So there's one primary entrance. You go into the one entrance, and once you get inside, you find 6, 8, 10, or 12 units on a property. What the community did not receive those very, very well when that was adopted in 2019, because there were some developers who were extremely aggressive with the zoning district, meaning they took 50 by 150 lots, which are interior to neighborhoods, and tried to max it out. And so we have not seen what we wanted to see. The district exists, and it can be used, but we're just looking for someone to really take that district and do what was intended for it. And what was your other question?
The R5C. So I live in a neighborhood that was actually just recently rezoned from R5 to R5C. And so I was just trying to actually get more information on, like, so I'm on the neighborhood board for Edgewood. So just trying to have a better understanding of when neighbors are asking for rezoning from R5 to or from R5C to something else, or MRMU, like what are the criteria that are allowed within those new kind of zoning changes? And that's something I couldn't find on the website. So I didn't know if there was a resource where I could go to look at all that.
Yeah, you will not find R5C in the zoning ordinance, because R5C is a two-family conditional. The Edgewood Neighborhood Association reached out to, I believe, Council Member Archibong at the time, and was seeking to add some conditions to the neighborhood related to duplex construction, I believe. And duplexes at the time were being built developers were maxing out the lot size, and it was a bit aggressive for some community members. So they reached out to their council member and asked, could they add some conditions to properties in the Edgewood neighborhood. There were a couple of public meetings. Of course, everyone did not agree with those conditions, but they were adopted. And they govern properties in Edgewood. If you give your information to Samantha, I can send you the legislation for that rezoning because it adopted several conditions related to how buildings could be constructed in Edgewood that are zoned R5C. MRMU, however, can be found in chapter 35 of the zoning ordinance. Municode.com is our online presence for our zoning code. Can everyone see my screen? Yes?
Yep.
Okay, so here we go, chapter 35, which is MR, which is the first two letters in MRMU. You can go down to 35, which is the districts, and find MRMU here. 2 to 3 story multi-unit buildings targeting missing middle housing needs. And then everything that follows are all the development regulations related to MRMU. So these are all the uses for the MR district. Permitted accessory, which there aren't any accessory to MRMU. The special administrative permit requirements, which are required for MRMU for any development that is built there in that, using that district. Their transitional uses and yard requirements, and then down to the FAR table, and you'll find MRMU here. There's no maximum FAR, but there's 12, the maximum is 12 units per building. It's also significant to note that if someone is building a 12-unit apartment building, then they must have a land use designation of medium density residential. If they are building one up between 4 and 8 units, then it is a land use designation of low density residential.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Dobson?
Hello, I had actually two more questions. One, in R4, do ADUs, are they required to still comply with setback
Yes,
guidance
they are.
in the 15-foot rear setback? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
great.
Mhm.
And then the other question I had, could you explain the Beltline overlay district a little bit more in terms of how that's determined and what is the threshold for a property to be considered Beltline overlay?
So the Beltline is in two parts. There is the Beltline corridor, which is where the tracks will be laid and the train will go on. And then there's the overlay, which is the half a mile on either side of the corridor. If you hear someone say, there's a regulation with regard to storage, I believe. So storage is prohibited within 500 feet of the Beltline corridor. That's within 500 feet of the rail track. There are other regulations that say within 500 feet of the overlay, that is on the half a mile on either side. For residential properties, single family residential properties, if you front on the Beltline, if you're in the Beltline overlay, like if you touch it physically, your property line physically touches it, then you have SAP requirements. If you touch the corridor, you have SAP requirements. If you're just in the overlay, meaning the half a mile on either side in a single family residential property, you do not have any Beltline SAP requirements. Does that answer your
And
question?
how is the half mile determined? Is that as the bird flies? Is it as walking distance? How is that determined?
So they drew a line a half a mile out from where the corridor edges are, and that's the overlay.
And if there's a mistake in the overlay, what process would it be to
We've never
correct that?
identified.
Like if they've broadened,
We've never identified.
if they've broadened the overlay to a mile from the belt line, how would that be corrected?
We've never identified an error in the overlay. Is there an error that we don't know about?
I think so, but I'll send you the information offline. The Peachtree Hills Beltline overlay
Mm-hmm.
was based on the old 2005 path for the Beltline that was not constructed or approved. So it's resulted in a much broader Beltline overlay than a half mile at this point. So I'll send you the information about it. It was, again, the Beltline was supposed to go along Peachtree Creek and under under the bridge on Peachtree and then connect, but that was not approved. It went south of that. So, but the overlay was kept in place. So now we have overlay properties that are farther than half a mile
Okay,
because it was never corrected. The overlay was never corrected.
okay,
Okay.
got it. Okay.
But thank you. I'll send you that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Angela?
Can you explain zero lot lines to me?
Sure. Zero lot lines are a real estate invention. There was a desire many, many years ago to create home ownership for attached product. So if you live in a townhome development and you happen to own your property, you are in what is your property had went through a zero lot line process, meaning the builder came into the Office of Buildings and submitted an application for a building permit for townhomes. They poured the foundation. Once they poured the foundation, they submitted an application for a zero lot line. And everywhere that the units touch, the wall touches, then there is a zero lot created. So that's zero lot line, very, very intentional, zero lot line. And all of those are now independent, single family attached dwellings. And that is the only way that you could get home ownership in an attached product. We use zero lot line for townhomes and we use zero lot line for duplexes.
Thank you.
Mr. Fraser.
Yes, good afternoon. I was wondering if there were any design standards pertaining to sidewalks. We have sidewalks in the West End that are kind of ornamental with hexagons, but we've noticed as sidewalks are being repaired or replaced, they're being replaced with standard sidewalks. And homeowners are then told that they need to get a contractor to come out and stamp them or something.
Yeah, so I don't know. Are you in the historic district of the West End?
Yes.
Okay, so as I understand, the historic preservation has made the determination that the hexagonal, or in conjunction with ATL DOT, that the hexagonal sidewalks are problematic, which is why you see them being repaired without the hexagons. If a private, that's the answer to the first part of the question. And so I'll also reach out to Matt Adams, who is the executive director of urban design, and get the final determination on that and have Sam send that to you. Because that's really not under my purview because I don't do historic preservation, but that's what I loosely understand, that those hexagonal sidewalks are an issue when they're trying to be repaired. So that's why they're going back with the standard sidewalks. The second thing is there are standards that were recently adopted with regard to sidewalks in the conventional zoning districts. So R4 through, I believe, C3 or 4 or 5, that we adopted in 2019 with Quick Fixes Phase 2, because the policy is to create a better sidewalk network for residents in the city so that they can get around, or we can get around the city without having to drive our cars, that the neighborhoods are connected. And then we're also connected to neighborhood commercial districts and then larger regional shopping districts and those kinds of things. In the residential districts, there are requirements for a 5-foot sidewalk and a 2-foot amenity zone. In the commercial districts, it's a 6-foot sidewalk and a 2-foot amenity zone. There are allowances to waive those requirements if there aren't sidewalks in the area currently, or if there are trees in the area, because of course, you know, we have a tree canopy number that we're trying to maintain. In the quality of life districts, which are, I saw someone put, what does quality of life mean? It means regulations that are created to preserve the quality of life, to enhance the quality of life. Those requirements are a 5, 10, and 5. There's a 5-foot street tree zone. There's a 10-foot clear zone, which is the sidewalk area, and then there's a 5-foot supplemental zone. Those are all that's the standard in the Beltline overlay. It's the standard in the quality of life districts, and it is usually only varied when the property does not have enough public right of way. If there are already existing sidewalks that they're trying to connect to, or if it happens to be on a state highway, the state does not play nice with the city all the time. So those regulations have to be amended to comply with state regs. Did I
Right,
answer your
thank you.
question, Mr. Frazier?
Yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
Ms. Weiswasser?
Yeah, so it's about like non-conforming lots. So I understand that typically a non-conforming lot is something that's already in use, but if it's a lot that has been vacant and no longer conforms to its current zoning regulation, say like an R4 that only has 5,000 square feet of space, is not technically an R4 by its minimum lot size. Would the city prefer a zoning variance or to actually rezone the lot to conform?
Is the lot not a historic lot of record or cannot be determined to be a lot of record?
Well, I think a vacant lot cannot be determined because it's been vacant for more than 2 years, correct? No? That I misread everything. So it's not a historic lot, but I'm not sure how to, you would verify a lot of record.
What are the records that you have that you could produce on the lot itself? Is there a plat that shows it as 5,000 square feet from, I don't know, 1920, 1930, 1950, any of those things?
The original Castile shows that it's not, it would not meet the 9,000 square feet minimum.
Okay, so we can't determine it's a lot of record. So the only way to use the lot is to rezone it to a district that would conform, and that's probably only R4B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but no matter what, you want it to be rezoned versus just doing a variance for a setback change?
Because you could only do a variance if we could verify that it was a lot of record, and then you could use it under those circumstances and then apply for a variance for developing on it. But if we can't determine it's a lot of record, then you have to rezone it in order to use it.
Okay, is there a way to look up a lot of record? Do we submit something with you in order to do
And
that?
there's a whole section of how you go about determining a lot of record. The documents you need to provide, old deeds, old plats, old records that say this was how it was always designed. And if you can provide those to us, then we can make that determination.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Getachew Smith? You're unmuted, sir.
All right, thank you. So my question has to do with the zoning review board. When the NPU appears before the zoning review board, are there any protections to make certain that fraudulent information is not provided? And to give you a couple of examples, one, the developer brought in a busload of folks that pretended that they were from the NPU and they were not, and allowed them to speak. And another situation was when the meeting was continued such that there could be some sort of negotiation between the parties. Then the developer came in and claimed that we had not participated, when in fact we had. But by that time, our 10 minutes had been used and we were not allowed to respond.
Well, I mean, it's really at it's the discretion of the zoning review board to call someone back to the podium to speak. If they have determined that they have enough information, then I don't have the ability to tell them to continue to talk to anyone or anything like that. Information, the only way I think that information could be conveyed to the board to ensure that the right information is being conveyed is to communicate with them before the meeting. And how do you communicate with them before the meeting? So the zoning review board has a mailbox, and their mailbox is open up until the day before the hearing. Any information that someone wants to provide in writing, pictures, presentations, written reports, etc., all that information is sent to their mailbox and then distributed to them before the hearing. And so they have all of that information in front of them, and you can speak to it as you are providing comment and dialogue on an application. Unfortunately, there is no way to stop someone from saying whatever they want to say because we don't have control over people's minds and hearts. But hopefully, they're saying the appropriate things and the correct things.
Thank you, ma'am.
Angela?
I'm sorry, I got a lot of questions. Okay, how are addresses created for subdivision? And when are lots given addresses for townhomes? Is it before the plat or after the plat is recorded?
Before.
Before the plat is recorded. My other question is, what determines the address for a consolidated lot?
Whatever the address range is on the street.
So is it one that the developer chooses themselves? Do
No,
they
it
say
is
they
reviewed
want?
by the addressing staff,
Okay,
and the address is assigned according to the address range on the property.
okay. And
On
for
the
the,
street, on the street, address range on the street.
okay, as far as the subdivisions, the addresses that are created there, how do you all go about creating the addresses for those?
Also created via the range. So if there is a cul-de-sac, there are numbers that are established according to the addressing rules. Let me see. So I live 1986 Sandu Court. I'm a new street, but on the main street, there is Sand Springs. And so there's all a 1900 level. And then you come into my cul-de-sac. So I'm a new set of 1900s that are in line with those along the main street.
Okay. All right, I got it. Thank you.
All right. Looks like that's all the questions.
Okay, so what Leah, before you do closing remarks, so our assignment is 1000 Murphy Avenue. And I will send Samantha everything that you all will need to have for next session. It will include applications. It will include a little bit of a narrative. It will include a few instructions. It'll also include a class roster. I highly encourage you all to reach out to your classmates because while you will not be assembled into your final groups that you will have during the lab, there will be questions that I will be asking. And in the interim, please reach out to me for tools, whatever questions I can answer so that you all will be prepared for your next meeting, your next class session, in whenever Sam tell me I gotta show up.
All right. Thank you so much, Director Holmes. That was so informative. I don't know if I've ever missed a zoning fundamentals one, and every time I take it, I learn something different. So thank you for the questions as well, because I think most of what I learned tonight was from your questions. I appreciate that a lot. I do see two more questions, one more question. So I'm gonna take Mr. Antoine's question. Okay, two more questions. I'm gonna take Mr. Antoine's question and Mr. Blassingame's question, and then we're gonna close for questions. And then we'll do our quick wrap up. Mr. Antoine? Okay, no question, Mr. Antoine?
No, yeah, it's a question.
Okay.
I might have missed this at the very beginning, but the class that we're discussing here, what is that? The assignments and all of this?
That's for zoning fundamentals 2. So you'll get information on that. In order to take zoning fundamentals 2, you have to take zoning fundamentals 1. So if you're interested in taking zoning 2, you have to have taken this class, which you did. So if you're not interested in taking 2, you can disregard everything except the survey. Don't disregard the survey. Mr. Blassingame?
Yeah, just had a question about your event at Greenbrier Mall. What exactly is that? I heard that, but I didn't get all of it.
Sure. So the comprehensive development plan is our policy document that is state mandated to be updated every 5 years. We're kicking off that update on February the 29th at Greenbrier Mall. It is where all of the policies of the city is listed out. All of the desires of the community are listed out in this big policy document book that the city council will adopt. It's very important that community residents, business owners, etc., come to that meeting, be a part of all the meetings with the CDP, because that is where all your ideas and your visions for how the city should develop and operate over the next 5 years are placed. And it's also how regulations are created for the zoning ordinance. And that is going to happen again on February 29th at Greenbrier Mall from 5 until 7. I'll be there. Lots of people from DCP will be there. And we highly encourage you all to attend. Bring your neighbors, your friends, your family, your children, bring everybody.
Yeah. Let me say this. Kieta and I are often partners in crime, if you will, in terms of our advocacy for the residents of Atlanta. I want to say this very clearly. If you have ever in your life complained about inequity in your community, if you've ever in your life complained, well, not in your life, if you've ever in Atlanta complained about inequity in your community, or if you've ever in Atlanta complained about resources, or they wouldn't do this over here, but they do this over there, any of that stuff, if any of those thoughts have ever crept into your mind, or you've heard it discussed by any of your neighbors, you should absolutely be present on the 29th at the kickoff, and you should be present at every other engagement for your community during the CDP process. I am not a zoning expert, so my discussion on the CDP is not going to be about zoning. It's going to be about engagement. It's going to be about getting people in the room, getting you in the room, and getting your neighbors in the room. I highly encourage you, whether you are already connected and know everything you need to know, or have no idea what a CDP even is. And by the way, if you don't know what the CDP is, we just did a class a couple weeks ago. Thank you. We just did a class, the Introduction to Comprehensive Development Planning. It was actually taught by our commissioner, who is the city's chief planning officer. She taught that class. It is on our YouTube channel at MPU Atlanta. I just highly encourage you to attend the kickoff and every other CDP related event if you can, please.
Yeah, and as someone, as I call myself, I am a power user of the CDP, which means every single application that crosses my desk and the desk of my staff, I use the CDP. So if you are concerned about housing, if you're concerned about lights, if you're concerned about parks and roadways, if you're concerned about sidewalks, if you're concerned about flood and health, all those things are covered in our CDP. So whatever you can dream up about your city, wherever you've been and like, oh, I would like to have that in Atlanta, please come and let your voice be heard. And if someone cannot come, get their information and bring it with you.
And I dropped the website in the chat. I think Sam is also going to make mention of that. I may have stolen her thunder a little bit, but it's worth it. You can't hear this enough. Trust me, you're going to hear it from now until we're finished at the beginning of 2025, middle of 2025. You're going to just keep hearing it over and over again, because I do not want any of my folks to miss out. No one that has ever participated in MPU University, no one that has ever gone to an MPU class, no one that lives in Atlanta. Those are my people, and I don't want my people to miss out on this process. So please, please, please bear with me as I repeat it over and over again, sounding like a broken record. The website is atlantaforall.com. I dropped it in the chat. You can register, you can RSVP to attend the event at Greenbrier Mall. It's going to be fun too. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Thank you for that question, Mr. Blassingame. It gave us the opportunity to talk a little bit more about the CDP. All right.
Now you are going to have free snacks and beverages there, right?
Mr. Blassingame, you need to go to the food court now. We work for the city. We can't be,
Now, see, I'm glad you answered that question because I was about to say, I hope we're going to have some. Listen, it's 5 to 7. It better be at least a Dorito or something, a Cheeto, something, some kind of snack. No, the answer is I don't know. But we'll definitely be asking. I'll let the folks know that y'all asked that question. How about that? All right, Samantha, it's on you. Thank you all for being here.
Okay, everyone. So as Leah mentioned and Kieta brought up, we have our Plan A kickoff, which is Thursday, February 29th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Greenbrier Mall. Then we also have next month our next NPU University course, which is reducing property taxes with homestead tax exemptions and appeals. So that is right before the deadline that Fulton County has. So if you want to lower your taxes on your home or want to learn how to do so, this course is for you. And that's Thursday, March 14th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Zoom. Then, which I'm shocked that Leah did not talk about, all of our Legacy Week events celebrating the 50th anniversary of neighborhood planning units. So we are celebrating all year, but in March, we have 1 week of a slew of activities. We have Public Engagement Day, NPU 50, which is Monday, March 18th at Atlanta City Hall. We have NPU 50th, the Inheritance and Legacy of Civic Power, a conversation with Atlanta's NPU Trailblazers, and that's Thursday, March 21st. Then we have The Legacy Continues at Maynard Jackson High School, which will be actually working with the students there, and that's Friday, March 22nd. All the information for these events can be found at npuatlanta.org. And also our last class for March, Building Permits in Acela for Beginners, which if you are following Plan A again, this is another course that you will be interested in as well. Thursday, March 28th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Zoom. And you can find all this information at npuatlanta.org. And if you would like to pull up to RSVP right now, you can actually scan this code with your phone for the event for our Plan A kickoff at Greenbrier. So I'm going to let that sit for a while for anyone that wants to
And thank you, Sam, while they're scanning to RSVP for the kickoff. I appreciate you mentioning the Legacy Week events. I'm not feeling great right now. That's why I didn't go into all of that, but I'm glad that you made the announcement. I hope to see you all joining us for our year-long celebration of the 50th anniversary of the NPU system.
So for all things NPU, please follow us on social media at our handle at NPU Atlanta on Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever the kids are calling it, and Instagram. And then also on TikTok at NPU Atlanta, and then on the Nextdoor app, City of Atlanta Neighborhood Planning Units. You all have received in your email and also this chat and evaluation. I'm asking that you all please take just 3 to 5 seconds to complete that evaluation on this course. Let Director Holmes know how well she did and how much information you all received. And we use that feedback. So that's it, everyone. Enjoy your evening.
Tell them it's budget season.
Yes.
It's budget season, y'all. That means that we're asking for funds for NPU University. That means we need metrics. That means we need you to complete the surveys, please. It shouldn't take more than a minute or two. So please do, Sam, drop that link again for those that may have lost it. Oh no, you'll send it in the email, right?
They received the email, and then there it is again. So anybody who wants to click on it right now, please feel free, fill it out. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being here. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everybody. Great information.
Thank you again, Kieta. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Feel better, Leah.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
thank
whoever
you.
said that. Oh, Miss Leanne. Thank you, Miss Leanne. I appreciate you. Thank
Sam
you.
and Leah, can you stay on, please?
Thank you.
Yes, I can stay on.
Hold on, y'all. Not the Facebook.